Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning. We're over the hump of the week. And we have a nice Thursday as well because we had a fantastic game yesterday to watch. Very entertaining in all aspects, and more pleasing being the scoreline. We're joined as usual by Trevor. How are you, Trevor?
Very upbeat this morning for obvious reasons as after yesterday.
And it's Thursday and the weekend is almost
Yeah,
upon us. And
it is.
also, as much as we might have political inclinations against the whole event, the World Cup is getting closer and closer. And for all the background in it, it's still the World Cup, and it still gets me excited like a little kid. The
Yep,
closer it
yep,
gets to
yep.
it. But let's talk about the game a little bit from yesterday. It was an exceptionally entertaining game. I thought literally a game of two halves, or maybe three quarters of a half, and then the rest of it. But Ajax certainly came out of the blocks looking for something, and we responded after maybe a period of evenness, if not a slight dodginess on our part. But we changed things up and then just took the game to them, and in the second half pretty much dominated them, which is not something we've often been able to say about games against Ajax, especially going back right to the 60s with Cruyff and that. Trevor, what did you think of the game?
I had the exact same wording on my notes for yesterday. A tale of two halves, halves in quotes, because it was about 38, 39 minutes where it's kind of on the back foot, and then just everything shifted in a couple of sublime passes, and Ajax just completely fell apart. And yeah, my big thing is I just hope that Elon Meslier saw that performance from Pasveer yesterday and goes, you know what? That's what I want to emulate this weekend. No more master classes in goalkeeping from these guys that leak goals for fun in the league. Please stop. Can we just get one time where a guy does not have the game of his life against us in the league? Please.
It would be a fantastic thing. I thought it was one of those almost blink and you miss them things because I literally left the room to go to the bathroom at 1-0, and then suddenly we weren't 1-0 anymore. It was quite uh, quick and aggressive the way we played in that second half. But it was nice to see Nunes get a goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, and especially as quick as it was after the restart, with the way he had that miss at the end of the first half, and a lot of guys would just kind of like sulk, and you just go, "All right, I missed my chance," but he came in and just rose up, got that header, got it in, and then everybody came over and really made sure that they just kind of had his knew that he had everybody's back in that regard, and that was really good. And just yeah, it went from there. It really could have been four or five with the way that kind of first 20 minutes went, with just how much of an onslaught it was. But I'll take three. I'll take progression, and that's all that really matters at this point.
I think Nunes also hit the post, didn't he? At one point, the bottom of the post on one of the shots. Like it really was that close that to getting a lot more goals than we did.
Yeah,
The Salah goal was a nice one as well. I mean, it was well taken, and everybody will talk about that. But the technique from Henderson to get to curl that ball around with the outside of his right foot was something special too, wasn't it?
oh, 1,000%. That was a beautiful ball that kind of just curved in like a professional billiard shot and just hit him right on the foot. And yeah, that was just remarkable. It was a very enjoyable 20-minute block of that match after sitting through a very tense opening part and a very bland end.
I think the best thing about it though for the ending was literally that we could, for once, take our foot off the pedal a little bit. I mean, the subs
Yeah,
probably helped that to happen because we put Bajetic, Carvalho, and was it Milner on at the same time?
yeah.
Um,
It
it
when
was
I
a
saw when I saw the young kid with the funky socks coming on, we were like, all right, now this is wrapped up. Where this we're not worried about this anymore. And I'm like, okay, we're cool.
I,
Yeah, they brought, and my only thing is they kind of put it on the feed as Henderson coming off with an injury. I'm like, it it seemed minor because it wasn't really brought up in any like the post game stuff that I saw. Like it wasn't something where like, oh God, we lost Hendo, he's going to be out for until the World Cup. So it may have just been kind of maintenance. But yeah, it was that was, and when I say bland, like I like what you're saying, taking the foot off the gas. It wasn't like it was boring or anything. It was just something. It was comfortable. That's probably the better term for it. It was just being able to go to the end, not have to worry about them like chasing a late goal to kind of get something like that. That was just comfortable.
I think the good thing about the Henderson thing just looked like a knee knocker to me. One of those ones where you clash knees, which are sometimes some of the most painful injuries that you get in soccer, but I generally don't tend to be a huge problem afterwards. Just very, very sore. And but the thing I liked about it was that it kind of reminded me when we made those subs, when we did decide that the game was in hand, of Muhammad Ali against George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle, where at some point, I think it was like the fourth, fifth round, after George Foreman had punched himself out, Ali started taunting him and saying, "Is this all you got, George? Is this all you got?" And it just seemed a bit like, at that point we figured out Ajax aren't going to hurt us much if we don't do anything silly. And so now's the time to put the kids on. But we'll talk on the pod tonight in more detail about the game. But looking ahead to Napoli, do you think we go all out to win the group, or do we say, we're qualified? It really doesn't matter at this point. So let's literally throw the second and third team on.
Well, I think at this point, and I could be wrong, that we would have to beat them worse than they beat us in the first game to get through. And I don't think that type of expenditure is worth it at this stage. It would be nice to get that bit of comeuppance and not necessarily revenge, but kind of just that confidence boost back where like, okay, that was a one-off. We can hold our own with Napoli. But I don't know. We'll see how this weekend's match goes. It may be something where you kind of, I don't know, need that for morale if we get a repeat of last weekend, this weekend. But in my personal opinion, I don't think you really need to go balls to the wall, especially when you have the options that could be there in the. And I hate saying it because I'm just kind of like feel like I'm karmically working it towards drawing Bayern Munich in the round of 16. Like, oh man, you could get Bruges or Porto, and that's just going to end up with Bayern and then Sadio scoring a hat trick against us and me crying.
We don't score at all for the rest of the season, and he scores one, and then we cry anyway. But we are at least, we're qualified, so we can't say much more than that. But at least we have the luxury now of looking at the games around us in the league when that game happens, and then seeing where we need the strongest team, because we literally we could put out the groundsmen and women and the physios at this point, if we were allowed to for that last game. Sticking with Liverpool, but moving on from the game. Nunez, we talked about, he had a fantastic performance in general. A bit surprising that he came off at 60, but coming back from the minor injury, it was probably the right thing to do. But here's the story we're looking at. Suarez warned me not to screw up again after the red card against Crystal Palace. And it says, number one, it says a lot for Luis Suarez in general, that he cares enough about his own teammate and his former club. But also for somebody like Darwin Núñez to hear from Luis Suarez, it really probably was the best kick up the ass that he could have gotten, wasn't it?
Yeah, a fellow countryman, a former Red, and a guy who is not a stranger to screwing up. Kind of just giving him that early message of, hey, these people will back you, but if you give them enough reasons not to, the they'll kind of leave you out there, and they'll be within their rights to do so. And I think it's something where he got that quick taste of the way some of these uh I'll say yeah, all right, I'll keep my my cussing to a minimum and just go dark artists of the central defenders in this league. It's not necessarily worse than a lot of other leagues. They're just kind of uh they aim higher, whereas I've seen guys in like Italy, they'll do it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every single striker, whether you're first or third team, they'll do it to you. Whereas a lot of the guys in England, they're like, oh, this is the new guy. Let's come in and bully him a little bit and see if he's got his shit together. And I think now that he's kind of gotten that message from the whole Anderson incident, now he's got Suarez in his ear going, hey, that you see what you're up against. Keep your head, keep it level, and move on. I think it's good for his psyche.
I think as well, though, for Nunes and probably for Diaz and anybody going to the Premier League from like Portugal or Spain or Italy, certainly, the difference in refereeing is almost an education in itself, isn't it? Because on the continent, you can get a minimal contact and go to ground and it'll be a free kick. Whereas in England, as we know, you randomly will get a ref who will let every single foul go and then, red card somebody for swearing. And then you'll get another ref who'll whistle after whistle after whistle. And then, watch somebody almost behead somebody with a kick and wave play on. So I think sometimes for the players that come from the continent or from South America, it takes a little bit of getting used to the fact that the referees in England will let a lot of challenges go, and the kind of rolling around on the floor is not going to work so much. It's a bit of a culture shock sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, and I always equate it to like pitchers learning an umpire strike zone. England's refereeing, everybody has their own style. There's no real rhyme or reason to any of it, and you kind of just got to look at the assignment chart when you're pulling up to the stadium and go, all right, we got this guy on VAR, we got this guy as a head ref, and sometimes even the linesman, because you've seen certain linesmen, especially in big matches, that will just let VAR do everything, and even if it's something where the guy's like 19 yards offside, we'll just keep the flag down, and then you run another 45 seconds, and then you score, and then he's got the guy sitting there at midfield with his flag up, like, what are you doing? And yeah, I agree that it is an education, and it's something where you got to kind of, I don't know, do secondary research. You're not just working at a game film anymore. You have to know referee tendencies, and you have to just kind of have the full picture.
But even then, though, for the Premier League referees, you can pull out the assignment chart and see who's refereeing that game, but they'll referee it differently this week than they did again for two other teams the week before. So even the consistency among the referees themselves from week to week can take some getting used to. But for Nunes, it's good that, he seems to be a little bit more in control of things than he was before the Chris. It's almost like he's just accepted how the lay of the land is, and is putting far more mature performances, and hopefully that will translate more now to do you think maybe a bit more relaxedness about his play, so that he's not constantly looking for that edge that he's used to getting. He's not going to get it, so he just gets on with his game, because he seems to have improved the scoring rate at least since that red card.
Yeah, he's taking less shots and doing better with the ones that he is taking. And I agree that it's something where he's kind of dropped that bit of his game where he just feels he needs to do certain things to get certain calls. Now he knows that he's not going to get them, so he can just focus on being skilled in what he does instead of having to worry about those other nuances that he had to deal with while playing for Benfica.
I think is for us, it's only a good thing that he's a little bit calmer, and it's good that he starts scoring again. But also better that maybe now we can plan ahead for the rest of the season without knowing we might lose him for 2 or 3 games to a red card at some point later on. Sticking with Champions League soccer and rules, etc., and refereeing. There were 2 decisions yesterday that have been hotly contested in all the social media, in the television studios, and both relate to VAR. We had Spurs, Conte complaining about the Kane goal that was ruled offside. And we also had the bizarreness of the Atletico Madrid match, where I believe, if I remember from watching it live, I haven't looked back, but the final whistle was blown, and then the game was called back for a penalty incident, a handball in the box. The penalty was taken, the rebound was hit off the bar, then it was saved, then it was cleared, and then the game was finished. I'm not a fan of VAR in general. I really don't like it at all. I can't see any instances where it has enhanced the game, except for maybe I was going to say, except for maybe instances where fouls haven't been spotted, but we know from personal experience of the last few weeks that with Salah that they still don't get spotted. What do you think of what happened yesterday, VAR, and was it justified to call that game back again in Atletico and Leverkusen?
I didn't see that incident live. I was, after our game, I kind of just tuned out and left, but I saw like the hundreds of, like, I don't want to say hundreds, it's a bit hyperbolic, but all of the notifications to the Discord of what is going on in this. Everything is going bonkers, and then they still went out. So I feel as long as Atletico's gone, how everything came about, the craziness of everything. I went and kind of watched it back in kind of like short Twitter form, and I can't wrap my head around it. That it's just bad, a bad look for everybody involved in the officiating of that game. So I'll just leave that as that. And then the Sporting Spurs one, man, that ref, I've never seen somebody so happy to like just fuck someone in in the sporting sense in my life. When they were the big clip is like him at the end, Eric Dyer trying to like explain to him that it was like a backwards pass that set up the goal, and he just sat there with the most shit-eating grin on his face, and you're going, wow, this guy just, I don't know if it's his coping mechanism to try to just like not fight back and yell at Dyer, or if he was just so proud of himself for what he did. It was kind of, it was weird. A weird couple of calls.
The thing about for me for that one, especially being an ex-coach, is you try and teach players, young kids who are new to soccer, you try and teach them the game and teach them the laws of the game. And it is a game where the opinion of the referee is baked into the laws. It's part of the adjudication of the game. But you still want some sort of consistency. And if you tell players, like young players, you're okay, you're onside if you're behind the ball when it's passed to you. If the ball is if there's nothing between the ball and the goal from your team, you're okay. And then along comes this decision where they were literally, by the looks of things, especially from the almost 20-minute explanation from the expert on Paramount on their feed for that game, micrometers almost, like literally like the smallest of increments for where that player was when he headed the ball across to Harry Kane. That's not what VAR really was designed for, was it? It wasn't designed for the margins, the like the really finest silk thread of margins. It was designed for egregious refereeing mistakes, not for a centimeter or half a centimeter or 0.75 millimeters of a millimeter rather. It runs the risk of turning the game either into like the NFL rulebook, 172 pages for literally every instance that could possibly occur, or just a complete farce where nobody knows what's happening, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I like to keep my geometry out of my sports because it's, yeah, like you said, some of those things where they would come on and they bring like the 17 lines and the angles and stuff where they're showing that, and it's just I'm just, my brain hurts, and it shows that, yeah, oh, like his his weenus of his elbow is offsides, something that he can't even use, and you're like, what? How is that anything? And then you're just, yeah, I it's one of those things where VAR in its initial uses in terms, and it's, we go back to uh, the World Cup in Russia, and you're like, all right, every time they would like go to VAR, you knew that there was going to be a reason why. It wasn't something just completely innocuous. Granted, they got some stuff wrong there. It wasn't perfect, but it was never like, oh, this guy's off by like a blade of grass. Let's go look at it. It was always something where they missed a foul, or, and yeah, referees are going to see things differently than even each other in a given game. And they're like, oh, you should go look at this. No, I shouldn't. Okay, cool. You're the head ref, so that's what goes. But the way it's being utilized now is just, I think they're just doing it for the sake of it. I think it's going to get to the point where VAR is going to be like sponsored by Heineken, and they're just going to like run ads during the checks because it's downtime that leads to just anger in more times than it should.
I think as well the question thrown up by the Atletico one was, as I said, the game seemed to have been concluded. We had that one 2 years ago, or when VAR first started in Germany, where the players came off the field at half time, and then the ref brought them back onto the field because of a VAR decision. I mean, that it leads to a situation where you're asking at what point is the game ended. You know, like could be like how long. But that was part of the explanation yesterday from the I can't remember her name for the life of me. But the Paramount rules, the refereeing expert was saying that like the ball was still in play until that phase of play ended, until the ball left the attacking third. But the attacking third is not like, it's not lined. It's not an actual definite part of the field. You're hedging your bets one way or the other where it begins and ends. You kind of left with the question is of how long do you keep playing the game once you've restarted a game that is already finished in order to get to correct this VAR anomaly that happened during the game. It makes the game almost endless in the way that NFL games are, where there's so much downtime, there's so much clock stopping, which is another thing they're considering bringing in, is that backwards clock that the American sports have. But I know from personal experience coaching high school sports, you never know when the game's going to end. You literally can't time the rest of your day from that, because who knows how long the ref is going to take. Because when the clock stops, the ref has as much time as he wants to figure out what's going on. But yeah, it runs the risk, doesn't it, VAR, and the way it's operated in situations like this, of probably turning people away from the game, which is not what they want, is it?
Yeah, and it gives you that just unnecessary ambiguity at the ends of matches where you're sitting there going, okay, they've put up, and especially when it comes to like in stoppage time is something that always has kind of baffled people that are either casual viewers or trying to like get into it. Like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't count like 5 minutes in stoppages when it's more like arbitrary. And then you throw something in like this where it's over. He blew the final whistle. It's gone. And then they go back and they check something. And like you said, what do they add on? Do they just let him take the penalty? And if he misses it, it's over? No, they let they let the ball bounce around for a bunch. And then after it was cleared away, and then they didn't have an immediate attack back, that's when it was called. That's bonkers. That makes no fucking sense to me. And if it's making no sense to people that watch these games religiously, yeah, somebody that just sees it in passing is going to go, "What is this garbage? Why would you put yourself through extra moments of possible just nonsense for yeah, yeah, it just befuddles me how they can sit there and then try to like justify it when it just should have been over. You missed the call, whoopsie doodle. They were probably gonna, yeah. I don't know. The more I go, the more I'm just like falling over my words because I don't have the proper words to describe how stupid that was.
I'm pretty sure the referees and the authorities haven't got the proper words to explain it, which is why we never hear from them. Moving on from VAR, but sticking with controversial things in soccer. I thought this interesting to see of the morning World Cup. Australian players criticised the human rights record of the hosts, Qatar, in a video. I mean, the World Cup is coming close. It still gets me giddy. It still makes me feel like it's Christmas Eve. I know the Champions League is considered the best tournament, but for me, it's always going to be the World Cup. It just from childhood and from like the slick marketing package that it is now. The rough and tumble, or the rough and ready look of it back in the very early 80s when I started watching them. It's a magic all onto itself. But this is going to be possibly something that's going to keep coming up as we get closer to the kickoff and probably during it as well, because there is a huge social conscience element to this World Cup for that's different than the others, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's something where we're already getting that lovely political divide that goes through everywhere in this world at this point because it's a something with a poignant message. They're going, we all put so much effort to get here and do this, and yet it needs to be addressed that what is happening is atrocious, and these people need to have some sort of accountability for the way they treat migrant workers, they treat just marginalized members of society. And if you want to just stay mum on that and just go kick the ball, that I don't know. There's a bit more responsibility for these players these days. And all of a sudden, you get, of course, you have these like right wing nothings. I go, well, if you were so hurt by all of these injustices that were brought, why don't you boycott? But it goes back to what you're saying. Like the World Cup is probably like the pinnacle of some of these guys' lives, and maybe the only opportunity they have to participate. So they're kind of meeting in the middle and going, yes, we're aware of what this tournament means to us as players and just us as a nation, but we also need to just point out and really drive the point home that we're going to a place that really has done some rough shit to a lot of people, and just turning a blind eye to it is not acceptable.
I think there's always something that you remember World Cups for. Hand of God in '86, the Brazil team in '82. and their failure, as exciting as they were. The Zidane headbutt, there's always a key thing that you remember from that identifies the World Cup. This could possibly be the only World Cup, or the first World Cup at least, that's identified for the amount of political slogans on T-shirts after players score goals. That's my prediction for in any case. But yes, we've come to the end of the morning show today. It'll be me and Trevor and possibly Alex, I think, tomorrow for the last early morning morning coffee show, early, so that we can all get back to normal next week when Tamuchin is back. Tonight we have the show that people are calling Astavitinpa, the Thursday night podcast with me, at least. I don't know who's going to be on it with me because old Jamie is now a father. Alan M says, good morning, Alan. Missed us yesterday, hospital appointment, and tired this morning.
We're tired as well, Alan.
Aren't we all, Alan? Aren't we all? Make sure you like, subscribe, watch our other content. EPL review show is out. The fantasy football show will be out today. If you're part of the fantasy football crowd, I'd like to say I am part of it because I am, but I'm doing dreadful, so I don't admit it an awful lot. And then, yes, we will have all the talk about yesterday's game tonight, the podcast tonight, and then look forward to the weekend with it as well. Listen to our Spotify. Make sure you drink your coffee, your tea, your orange juice, do your work, and get ready for the weekend. Trevor, we'll talk to you tomorrow morning. And for me, it is peace out. Good morning, or good